Morning. Okay, we're going to get started here. I am helping Carlita out because she's on her way for her anniversary today in Mexico. 33 years she's celebrating, and so I get to help you guys out with chapter 5 and chapter 6. How many of you were able to read it? I mean, you get like double, triple if you had a chance to read it, but I think you'll still get a lot out of it. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Shelly Nelson. And I'm here in Tennessee, and it is pouring rain out there and dreary. So it's a perfect time to be together in this book club. So I'm just going to get started right away. And I'm just going to share with you that chapter 5 with Rachel is all about her dating relationship and her perspective versus her boyfriends at the time. And I was thinking about that. I bet you if we had time to open up and share, that many of us were in a similar type of relationship where you thought the guy was more serious and like that was the guy you were headed to be married until death do you part, and then you found out otherwise. And you know, it's an all too common story. And you guys, the thing that we need to know, good morning, Christine, the thing we need to know is that boys and girls are different. Here's your education. And we need to teach our girls that, and we need to teach our boys that. Because girls are like honing in, and they want all cuddly and sweet and oh, this is just all warm and fuzzy. And guys are very, very sight-oriented and sexual. And I know when Emily and Patrick went to marriage counseling, it was with a husband and wife. It was pre-engagement counseling, actually. And he was told, so he looked right at Patrick and he looked at Emily and he said, Emily, I just want to tell you right now, while you're in this dating relationship, that guys are pigs. And Emily's like, what? I mean, this is the guy that you love. And he's like, his mind is not going to go to the good things. And so it's both of your responsibility to set up your boundaries and your guidelines, but understand that a guy is unless you have like a gem beyond a gem, is not the main one who's going to think about keeping this girl pure. And if you mamas are raising your boys for that now, I salute you, and keep saying the same thing every time that they're together with guys and girls. Remember that every girl is your sister or somebody else's wife until they're your wife. I mean, it's the thing my boys heard over and over and over. They're not yours. They're not yours. And it's not the popular thing in this day and age, is it, you guys? It's kick the tires and try things out before you settle in. And I don't know how great that gets anybody, right, Terry? So anyway, just some of the things that I think with relationships, and let me turn this light on a little bit here. Sorry, guys, you got my nose now. There, how's that? A little better? Don't want to have two lights in my glasses. Well, might not be able to avoid it. Anyway, hindsight is a really good teacher, isn't it? When we look backwards at situations. And man, unfortunately, in every situation, by the time we look back, we've kind of built up scars. And I'm not just talking about a dating relationship. It's in everything that we experience. Is looking backwards will give us a crazy amount of insight. The lie that she had over and over, which I think is really good, is she said, when we were together, he was so sweet, so loving, that it held me over till the next time when he wouldn't call. Like, how many times do we do that same thing? Make excuses for a person's bad behavior. Oh, well, next time. You guys, I hear this way too often, and I even hear now, well, you know what? Every marriage experiences that. Every marriage experiences that, so it's just part of life. we need to start setting some standards, and we need to start raising the bar. I'm just going to tell you that right now, that if you're settling and you're allowing bad behavior to go on, you're doing a disservice not only to you, but to the other person. And so, you know, I was told years and years ago that typically our fights are because either selfishness, differentness, or righteousness. And I don't mind things being done differently. I mean, some of us are perfectionists and we want things done exactly how we want them done. But if you allow the person to have a little bit of freedom in this, then they get to learn to do things their own way, and it gets done just the same, right? And then there's selfishness, and this is one where I will tell you, typically the more mature person will give in. It's just the way it is, because they think higher of the relationship. Or you can, if you have a relationship with Christ, then it's the person who really, really, really wants to do right, and so they give in all the time. And I will tell you that there are times when you actually need to say, we need to work this out together, so that it's not always one person giving in. Like, you guys, I'm just telling you, Jeff and I will be married 40 years this June. And so I got married when I was almost 18. Hear that? Almost 18. I had a lot of growing up to do, even though I thought I was very mature and I can handle anything out there. That wasn't true. But we learned, Jeff and I grew up, he was 19 and I was almost 18, and we grew up together, and we had to learn how to communicate properly, because I had been home and been like, my mom and dad thought I really could do no wrong. Like, they were so encouraging to me. And all of a sudden I'm with a male who speaks a different language than I do, with somebody who's a different number on the Enneagram chart completely. And we're just like speaking different languages. And so the big challenge always was so that you can help each other understand. And the thing that we communicated is we're on the same team. And I will tell you that I am beyond blessed for Jeffrey to be, I forget what number he is, but I will tell you that if he has convictions on something, he will not compromise them at all, nothing. And so he has been so faithful to me, and has been so guarded, and has been the strong person to keep us moving forward in our family. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But that's not the situation always in all relationships. And I will tell you that 40 years has not been 40 years of bliss. We actually had years where I thought, why did I marry this person? And why did he marry me? I mean, we both have had it back and forth. And I think if most people are honest, maybe you have a spouse that adores you and they don't ever tell you when they're upset with you, but I bet most people have had a fight. Anybody? Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm not the only one. I can remember when we were first married. I'll just tell you how immature this is. But I was always a very thoughtful person, so I was so mad at him. And I don't even remember what the fight was over, but I laugh at this now, because I knew Jeff needed the car to go to work the next day, so I thought, I'm just going to get on my bicycle, I'm going to ride home to my mom. And it was only like an hour and a half in a car away. So I thought, and I have my sleeping bag, and Jeff's like, Shelly, really? Like, we just need to work this out. I was passionate. I'm a pretty passionate person. So you guys, what Rachel really talked about here is that she tried absolutely everything she could think of to be everything he wanted. And that's the problem, you guys. I'll tell you some of the things that I love, like Caleb and Janae. They're here with us now. What I absolutely love is that I see Caleb being his complete self, and Janae adoring his craziness. And I see Caleb adoring her the way she is. And when I talk to my daughter Katie, she's just like the same way. She's like, Mom, when I saw Janae and Caleb, that they were like more comfortable with each other than anybody, I knew it was a good thing. If we feel like we have to like be guarded with the person we're married with, that's just a good indication there could be issues. And you guys, I'm going to just tell you this, go to counseling before. Go to counseling often. That's one thing. Scott and Katie had premarital counseling. They actually were friends for 10 years and traveled on the road for 8 of those years. And Katie adored him and loved him, and he thought nothing of her for all those years. And after she went away and said, okay, that's enough. This relationship's not going to go anywhere. He's never going to like me. She left. He followed a year later, and a year after that, they were married because he realized what he didn't have anymore. But the thing that they decided from the get-go is we want to stay ahead of issues instead of trying to mop up issues. So they have really good friends who are marriage counselors, and they just meet with them. They meet with them once a month. And they're just like, we want to stay on top of this, and we want to talk through the things before they become big things. You know, back in my day, it was a stigma if you had to go to counseling. You guys, it's not a stigma. It's not a, yeah, you're right, Terry Ann. It's not a stigma. It's one of the healthiest things you can do, because it even talks about when if you're a wise person, you're going to go to find a great group of people for that added wisdom. One of the things that I feel most blessed about is some of the older people that Jeff and I were surrounded with from the get-go, that we just set up our ground rules from the beginning, even though we were immature. So just know that, you guys, that, if there's any kind of abuse whatsoever, that's called righteousness problems. And righteousness issues need to be nipped in the bud immediately, and it's not on you, it's on the other person. If it's differentness things, you got to learn how to get your mojo together and allow each other to do things a little different. If it's selfishness, keep working through the selfishness issues so that you can let each other be individual, but also to be a couple and not just be lonely people when you're old. You don't want to be that couple that sits across from each other at a restaurant and doesn't utter a word to each other. Breaks my heart when I see that. So in her book, she talks about that finally she had enough. He broke up with her, and it was like she landed on the floor in a puddle. She had begged him not to leave her, and she knew that even after that breakup, he was going to end up calling her. And it's so interesting because something clicked in her this time where she had enough. And, that's usually what it takes is for any kind of change, is you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's why I say don't wait till you get to that point. Like, start paying attention. The thing that is so common, you guys, is when you're in a bad situation, you don't realize it. You don't always realize it. I'm going to go ahead and hit mute for everybody. Just, you guys can unmute if you have a question. Okay. Did I hit record? Oh yes, it's on record automatically. It scared me. Okay, so what she said in this is that for that whole year, she just looked at the pretty part of the relationship and made excuses for everything else. And so one of the things that's absolutely true is that people will treat you with as much or as little respect as you allow them to. And so their dysfunctional relationship started with the very first time that he treated her badly and she accepted it, right? So you guys, make sure you guys can mute your phones or mute yourself. Oh, there we go. Mute. There you go. So anyway, she finally said, I'm done. And the thing that I want to tell you guys that a pastor told us years ago is that you are not responsible for another person's reaction, but you are responsible for being truthful and truth in love. And so a lot of times women will, they're just not like on their game, or they're not communicating properly because they know that it's going to be a reaction of some sort. And that's not ever a way to be able to move on into a healthy relationship, is always looking for that relationship. And now let me put that into an Arbonne business. some of you've had no's, or you've had people respond or react badly about things. And so you hesitate to make phone calls and set up appointments because you're afraid of the reaction. Remember, you're not responsible for reactions. So the big thing that happened is she decided that she was going to be done, and he finally came to his senses, and he said, I am sorry. And she said that's where our love story really began. And she defines their relationship pre that time and after that time. But she's also very careful to say that you need to know who the person is, right? So that it's not going to just keep going back into a cycle of victim mentality. One of the things that that happens is people are waiting for their story to change without setting boundaries. And my sister said something, because she's been through a lot of counseling, and she said that she was taught to wake up in the morning and ask the Lord, what does love look like today? And you guys, that's so important, even with our teams and with our children. What does love look like? What is actually real love? Because we like to just make things all rosy and sunshine, and sometimes love is tough love, and it's not easy. I have a friend who had to put her son into drug rehab, and it wasn't a pretty sight. She was called every name under the book. And 8 months later, he wrote a letter thanking his mom for investing in him and following through, even though he didn't like it. And you guys, that's what happens, is sometimes when people are in the midst of things, they don't want to be shook up, and they don't want to have boundaries. But when you are living a life with sometimes offering tough love, then that means that you have to say the tough things, and you have to go through it, and it always comes out better on the other side. So some of the things that, and I don't know why I wrote this down in the book, but very few roads to love are easy to navigate. I love that statement. And ours was no exception. It's important to me to know that while our journey hasn't been easy, the 14 years since that first crappy one have totally outweighed the mistakes of both of them. I think that when you're asked, this is why I wrote it down, tough love, ask yourself, do I need to today be a little bit tough so that this person does not continue in bad behavior? Or do I need to show like the 5 love languages? Acts of service. Do I need to do something for this person to let them know that I care for them? Maybe they're the person of words of affirmation is a big deal. So then you say, well, how can I affirm this person? Do you guys know that if you will try this little experiment with, let's say, you're a loved one, a kid or a spouse or whatever, and just affirm with positive things, you will see the person rise up to that. Our natural tendency is to be a fixer and to point out the bad things. Do you guys agree with that? Ooh, that's not right. You didn't pick up your boots. The chair didn't get pushed in. Your dishes didn't go in the thing. So when we become people who look for the positive, people will begin to rise up to that. And when you can edify another person, and there's a reason in the Bible it says that women honor and respect your husband, and men love your wives, because we need all the lovey-dovey, ushy-gushy, and they need words of affirmation, and for us to trust them and to have respect and to honor. And so words of affirmation is one. Physical touch is another one, and then the gift of quality time, but then also just gifts. And so think about that and pay attention to those of you around. My kids just celebrated Valentine's Day again. And years ago when they were, I don't know what age they were, I blocked off the dining room with sheets, and I made them wear pajamas to supper that day, and it had to be red or pink. I had given them each love notes and a little gift that I put on their bed. And by the time the dinner came around, they came into the dining room, which was crazy decorated on a kid's level, not a beauty decorating. Everything was pink and red. And I just think it's so fun, because if you talk to my kids now, I ask them, like, what did they do on Valentine's Day? And like Heidi does that same thing every year with her kids. And I looked at Emily when she posted a picture on Valentine's Day, all 5 of her kids were in red. jumping on the trampoline. I know they had a Valentine party. And so those little acts of love and going out of your way, the things that are full of effort are so worth it to people. So here's one thing I want to read here. So many women have made mistakes or done things they regret and become versions of themselves they aren't happy with. So many other women have survived and come out on the other side stronger because of it. Every day you are choosing who and what you believe about yourself, and you're setting the standards for relationships in your life. Every day is a chance to start over. This is why you will see women who have been victimized continue to be victimized relationship after relationship after relationship, because they haven't learned the new truth and they continue on in the same truth. And so they will continue to take it. They will continue to try to make the other person happy. And they just go in the same game in the next relationship. And so important, so important to get into counseling. There's a book that I have right here because I'm helping somebody through this right now. Why does he do that? Inside the minds of angry and controlling men. I mean, it's not that all men are angry and controlling, you guys. I'm just saying, if you have somebody, and this girl has somebody like that, and so I'm trying to help them through. But every day is a chance to start over, you guys. So one of the things that she said would have helped her back then is if she had a good sounding board. When you walk through a season, you want to have a sounding board. And you guys, this is the big problem. We don't want to have people tell us to do things differently. And I think if you can always remain in a spot your whole entire life of being a good listener and being coachable in every area of your life and not letting your hackles go up when you hear something you don't like, you're going to be so much better off for it. So much better off for it. And I remember Chuck Swindoll, who was a pastor of a big church, said that he would get criticism every Sunday, criticism every Sunday. People would write him notes. He would get people that come up to him and tell him he wore the wrong clothes or he didn't say this right. And so he said, I had to learn not to reject everything, because there were people who were speaking truth into me that I needed to learn and grow from. So he said, I learned this process. I learned to close my mouth, listen to what they had to say, ask myself if there was any truth to it. If I was unsure, go to some of my closest people, not yes men, but people who are truth tellers in your life. Ask them, do you see this in my life? And if the truth is yes, then he said I needed to go back to the person and I need to let them know how I was going to fix it. And if it wasn't the truth, I needed to wipe my feet on the rug and move on. And we need to learn to do that same thing, you guys. The second thing that she said is she said it would have really helped me to be prepared. And that what she's talking about is learning to be less naive and have more self-respect. And it's important to be prepared for ahead of time things, for sure. And the big thing that you have to know is that your standards and your convictions of what your truth is will shape you even if you're not prepared. Even if you're not prepared. So here's the other thing. Someone else's shoes. Imagine someone else describing your relationship to you. Would they say your relationship was healthy? If not, and the answer is no, then you need to seek counseling. So that's the way I'm going to end that one is, they definitely moved on and they got into a healthy relationship. So I just thought it was important to spend a little time on that, because I think that we need to learn how to be a partner. And the reason that we are partners in life when we are married is to help each other become better. And it doesn't mean that we are the perfect one in the relationship, that we do need to listen to our spouses and they need to listen to us. And when we don't, that's when we butt heads, right? Okay, so the lie. No is the final answer. This one, you guys, you're going to have to get off this call when we're finished and you're going to have to go do some booking for sure, because you got to do it when it's fresh in your mind. So she says that she's the expert in rejection, or more specifically, an expert in bouncing back from rejection and fighting her way forward for her goal. And I love that. I love that. She said, I want what I'm telling you to excite you so much that it rubs off on you, and that you would understand that the word no is just, it's a perspective is all it is. So she said that she at one point was written up in a magazine for being one of the top entrepreneurs who were under the age of 30. And she's like, you'd think I started making $1 million, but that was not the case. She said what happened was I got invited to speak at a ton of colleges within 100-mile radius. And she said all of these kids would say, can you tell us the secret of your success? Right? And how many of you have been asked that even, Arbonne, tell me your secret. What's the secret sauce? And so she said, I first wanted to ask the question, I would give, in the beginning, she would give generic answers like it was hard work, dedication, making myself indispensable, blah, blah, blah. But she said, really what led to that massive platform with all those fans really was, she says, she gives a story of George Bush and Kim Kardashian and being very sarcastic about it. But she said, all joking aside, her success had to do a lot with waking up early, being the hardest working person in the room and asking for help, and being able to fail over and over again and working on constantly to improve both self and her brand. Now that doesn't sound so romantic, does it? Doesn't sound very fun to get to MVP and say, I woke up earlier, I went to sleep later, I was the hardest working person on my team and always was the highest in sponsoring and the highest in sales and like everything. I always asked for help and coaching from my upline. I failed over and over and over. I sat out in my car after doing a presentation and said, ugh, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. Or, ugh, I meant to ask that person and I chickened out. That's the reality of what it is in life and in business. And she said, but why is it that she succeeded when other people maybe have done the same thing? Why is it some people are successful in Arbonne and some are not? Here's the truth of the matter is it's because when they went after their dreams and they came up against a roadblock or they experienced rejection or when someone or something told them no, they listened to it. The difference between a successful person in an area and not is the tenacity and the ability to keep going no matter what. And that's the honest truth of it. So she said, I'm successful because I refuse to take no for an answer. I'm successful because I've never once believed my dreams were somebody else's to manage. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we do in our Arbonne business is we hook our wagon to a new business builder and we stop booking our own activity and we're like, oh yay, this person's gonna take me to the top. And it doesn't happen, and then you're discouraged one more time. Instead of hooking your own wagon to yourself and to keep moving forward while helping other people hook their own wagon. So when it comes to your dreams, no is not an answer. The word no is not a reason to stop. Instead of that, think about it like a detour. Or think about it like a yield sign or merge with caution. She said what no reminds her to do is to slow down and reevaluate where you are and to judge how the new position you're in can better prepare for your destination. I think that no also in Arbonne means I'm not communicating properly with this person. They're not hearing me. And so when we start becoming a better listener to people, we can hear the answer back. Like I tell gals on my team, if they're saying no, they don't want to do a party for me, I'm like, you asked the wrong question because you're not asking anybody to do a party, for goodness sakes. You're trying to let them have a good overview of what Arbonne is and to see if any one of those areas might be something they're interested in. Or maybe you would love to meet new people and get into a new city. And so what you're asking is, hey, do you know any people over there? Would you be willing to do this? And I have healthy living inside and out. We can just like share a gamut of things for whatever your personal interest is. And so it'll be a win-win. You're going to help me meet new people. I'm going to help you and all of your friends be introduced into something amazing. And so it just means we need to change our course or direction. And I think the biggest thing we need to remember is that we have to shift our perception of no. Rita Davenport used to say no just means they don't know enough. Because how many of you said no to doing Arbonne before you decided to do it? Me. I mean, I told Sandra to keep her schemes to herself. Like, Sandra, you can talk to me till you're blue in the face. I am not doing Arbonne. There is not a chance. Keep your little schemes to yourself. I'm happy for you, but no. And I said that to her for 2 months. And guys, almost every day, I didn't have caller ID, or I would have used it. I didn't have it. So I had to answer the phone every time in case it was my kids or my husband. And it'd be Sandra telling me about all the fun she was having in Arbonne and all the things she was learning. And oh my goodness, Shelly, I can't believe you keep telling me no. And I hear so many stories when you talk to NVPs and you ask them, how many of you said no? There were so many of them that they were not nice no's to people, not nice at all. And so you guys, if you see that somebody is saying, I need Arbonne, don't give up, because they just don't have enough information. And really, that was my thing. That was my thing that helped me, is I kept getting little tidbits of information, and like she would share things like from the backside. That's why Deanna Herron says, do an ask and a touch, and an ask and a touch. So the touch might be, ask might be, hey, I thought of you, this is why, and you ask them to do the business with you. They say no, then the next thing you want to do is get them into a touch after you get them plugged into the funnel. Because the funnel, if you use the funnel system, guys, you will never get a no. You'll never get a no. If you don't use the funnel system, you'll get a no every day. Because people, number one, psychologically don't like to say no 3 times in a row. Did you know that? So they're going to find some way to say yes to you. It's like kids. They know to keep asking and keep bugging mom. And finally you're like, okay. Well, so there's a little bit of that. And it's not that we want to be a bug for sure. But what it really is we need to find out where they will fit in. And so when I went from feeling like I knew no people 1 month and being an area at 7,500 because I didn't have any activity and my team did, I had to sit down and really ask, do I know more people? Am I willing to do this? Like, I get this business. And so what happened is there was a shift in me, and I started using the funnel method. And I came up with 30 new names, and I called all 30 people over the course of 2 days. I thought, I'm not going to wait for this. I need to get this going now. And what's so interesting is we ended January at 7,500, but we ended February at 15,000. So big difference. And what was the shift? It was me. There was a shift in how I began to talk, what I was thinking about, and that I knew that people needed to be offered things. And I started with the funnel. This is why I thought of you to consider hearing more information about doing the business. Oh gosh, Shelly, no, I'm not going to do something like that. I'm like, well, no problem, I get it, but hey, would you be willing to have a little get together? Because I think if you're like me, you're going to fall in love with these products. And if they'd be like, oh gosh, no, I'm not going to, no, I don't have any time. I work so much the way it is. And I'd be like, you know what? I totally get that. What do you think? And if they live close to me, I'd say, what do you think about coming over to a little get together that I'm going to have? I think you would really love to be pampered a little bit and to try these products. And if they said no to that, I said, you know, I get it. I get it. I'm hearing you're really busy. What if I met you for coffee before you head into work, or for lunch one day, my treat? And that's where I would get some, and it could be a one-on-one at that point. If it was still like, no, I just am not interested, then this is how I'd end it. Okay, you are a hard sell. I get it. You're busy. Would you be willing to use a sample for a 1 week and give me your honest opinion? Use it exclusively. And now, you guys, we can offer the healthy living samples, and we can offer the RE9. And so that's the easy way to just segue into it. Are you more into making your skin really healthy and beautiful, or do you really want to work on your health? Or maybe both. And you guys, you will get a yes, and then you follow up, because what does Eric Worre say? Our business is always open as long as we are having conversations. We shut down the conversations, you guys. And that was the question that Larry King's like, what do you do when people tell you no? And that was his answer. Well, my business is open as long as I'm having conversations. Thank you, Valerie Makowitz. It's all Arbonne. Isn't it nice? She said my skin looks lovely. It truly is. So here's about the perception. And I remember hearing this years ago at GTC. It was when it was NTC. Do you guys remember the person on the stage that was talking about the first time that somebody hears something, their knee-jerk reaction is no, because they don't have any files in their head that can help grasp or hang on to it. This is why people will say no 3 to 5 times to doing this business, because they just can't even imagine them doing it. So they said, imagine that everybody's got this linen screen in front of them. It's still porous, but it's a screen. And so the first time something new hits it, it's gonna bounce back. Knee-jerk reaction, no. But a couple particles are gonna follow through, because now they've heard about it. The second time that they hear it, they've already got a little bit of files back there that they can begin to listen a little more actively. The third time, they're gaining more information and it sounds familiar, so that by the fourth time, they'll actually consider and say yes. But how many of us say no, hear a no, and we never call back? How many of us? We are doing the people that we are reaching out to a huge disservice, you guys. A huge disservice, because we know how Arbonne has encouraged us just with the relationships we have, just with the opportunity to be able to brush shoulders with people like we are. I think we're pretty great people, because we're all in the trenches on our own, but we come together and we understand each other. So everybody's got their perception. John O'Leary talked about that at GTC, didn't he? He talked about the perception of changing his three things that he asked when he was laying in bed as a burn victim, and saying, why me? And how many of us have bad things happen to us and we're like, why me? Instead, he's like, why me? There's got to be something really important with this. Why me? And then how about the next one? Who cares anyway? I care about my own business, and I care about my whys, because nobody else is going to care about them for me. And so that's going to change your perspective. And instead of saying, what more? You can go, ooh, what more? What more is coming? I've heard people say, I can't wait to hear that next no, because I'm closer to my yes. That's not my goal, to hear a ton of no's. My goal is to change their mind a little bit and to have them say yes. But so you guys, perception is reality for where you are right at that moment. And our reality is always colored from our past experience more than by what is actually happening to you. If your past tells you that nothing ever works out, life is against you, you're never going to succeed, guess what? That's what you're going to always feel like. You guys, my mother used to tell me when I was a teenager, not proud of it, but she would say, resist, resist, resist. Shelly, you always got to resist, because I always needed to know, like, why can't we do this? My mentality is, I always tell Jeff it's in the 30-year plan, and we're like so opposite. He's a very, very planned out and like realist is what he would say. And his knee-jerk reaction is always no. Always no. So I already know that. I always know that it's going to be no. So I just am like quiet, and then I go back and I share my reasons why I think it can work. And, you know, I always told them I have a 30-year plan with my dreams. Not planning on it tomorrow, but I always have dreams. That's one of my personalities, is that I love to think of the next thing. I love to think of the next vision. That In my home, like I look at the next thing, and it has very little to do with me. It's about the people that I bring into my home. Because I don't need a swimming pool, but boy, I love having my grandbabies over here to enjoy that swimming pool. I that's just how I am. So I always have a 30-year plan. So I told them the next big thing is to knock out the whole back wall that leads out to the pool. We just had the floor replaced yesterday, finished having it replaced. So my house is in a big dusty mess, but that's me always dreaming for the next thing. And this is my mentality, you guys. If there's a will, there's a way. And so this is what I would tell Jeff when he'd say, no, it can't be done. I'd say, well, if I hired somebody else to do it, then could it be done? And he'd say, yes, then it can be done. I just don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, that's the truth of the matter. It can be done. And so here's the thing, you guys. Every single one of you can become a national vice president. There's not any limitation for it. None. There's no limitation. It's the most simple business in the whole wide world that you'll ever do. It is not being a paramedic. It is not being a doctor who's doing surgery. It's not taking the boards for whatever, the law degree. It's none of that stuff. It is just putting one foot in front of the other day after day after day and learning how to, along the way, become very disciplined with things. So here's the thing that she says, if you quit accepting no as the end of the conversation whenever you run up against opposition, you can shift your perception and fundamentally change your whole life. You guys, I hope that you're hearing this. And if you have not read this chapter or listened to it on Audible, go do it. Go do it, because there really is nothing that you cannot achieve. So here's the thing, you have to do that. You have to name your goals, because our dreams are our whys, you guys. And they should be big, crazy, tenacious goals. I feel like one of the biggest problems that we get is like we become a little bit successful in our bond where we are now comfortable. Like we can pay our bills. We don't feel like there's a stress over it. We maybe upgraded a tiny bit with a car, or maybe we upgraded new furniture, or we have a new house and a house payment, and we're like, okay, I'm good. And we settle back and we forget about the big, crazy, tenacious dreams. So first thing she says, you have to name your goal, and you have to like shout it out like the big Bambino. He said, this one is mine. And he like point his finger out of the park and hit a home run baseball. And that's what we have to do. That's where we have to go into our presentation saying, I'm going to find X amount of business builders. I'm going to replace with this many get-togethers, and I'm going to have this amount of money in sales. And by the way, if you haven't listened in the Road to Region with Tammy Clinton, go back and listen to it. It's powerful, very powerful. I'm going to listen to it a few more times. So right now, just for a real quick second, before we end this, I want you to jot down your number one most urgent practical goal that you have. Number one, I gotta accomplish this. And this is not your Arbonne thing. This is for your family. What needs to be done? And if you can't think of one because you're feeling really comfortable, like if you have all your debt paid off, if you can afford to say yes to vacations without going in debt, like if you're all good at that point, then I want you to look 5 years down the road and ask yourself, if I do not accomplish what I need to do, what is my life going to look like? What is my life going to look like? Okay, so you put those things down there, and then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to say these are mine and I can accomplish these things? I think after we get those urgent, practical dreams, we can put the fun dreams and the memorable dreams. So fun. On Sunday, Emily called me before church and said, hey, Mom, after church, you want to go drive down to Disney World with the kids? Like, who can do that kind of stuff on a wild hair? So fun. And think of how many people have to say, no, I have a job. No, I don't have any extra money. No. You guys, let's work on having more yeses in life. The other thing is you have to work really hard to take away your experiences that you've had for rejection. You have to learn to change the way that you see the word no and take away the fear of it. Bible says, let that which is in darkness be brought into light, because when things are allowed to sit in darkness, they get bigger and they get worse, you guys. That's with sin issues in our life. with any big issue. If we keep it dark and covered, it is going to get bigger and you will not have control over it. I promise you that. But when you bring it out to light, you will find a solution for it, and it cannot have power over you. That's why it's so refreshing when we hear people are transparent in life instead of everything is perfect. When they're transparent and they go, you know what, this is an area, gosh, I gotta make this one better. And that's exactly what Rachel's like. And she's taken a lot of criticism for it as well. Why do you think every chapter of the book that she wrote begins with the word, a lie I used to believe? Because we actually believe those lies. The trouble is we rarely know that they're lies until someone points them out or until we're past them. And that's the goal, you guys, is to keep growing personally so we can get past it. Here's the things that usually help people stop their dream. Some people quit because a voice of authority told them that they couldn't do it. When my sister was young, she wanted to be in the band, and she took a test, and they told her she had absolutely zero musical ability. Zero. She worked like the Dickens to hear. She would play a note and she would be able to name it to the point that now she can hear a note and she can name the note. But it took practice. They told her she had zero musical ability, but she wanted to play the trumpet. She had tenacity and she didn't let a voice of authority tell her no. And she became first chair trumpet player. Maybe it's a parent or a loved one out of fear or caution told you not to try. This was my mom. My mom never would have a Tupperware party, would never have any kind of home party because she didn't want to put people in a spot of feeling obligated. How many of you feel that way? Or that's the way you were raised? Yeah, isn't it funny? So funny. And instead, we go out and we buy things every single day, but when it comes into a home party, we like freak out about it. Crazy, crazy. Here's another thing. Maybe you were told you're too young or you're too old or too whatever. The voice of authority that you need to hear is going to be your own, and it can't be one that comes out of negative self-talk. I loved what you said, Melissa, when you talked about Tom Barrett, who said, who put the jelly in the donut? And she's like, who cares who put the jelly in your donut? We don't need to have that jelly in our donut anymore. We need to just say that that is not something I'm going to listen to. And it takes time, you guys, to retrain your brain. It takes a while. I remember when Katie Niss was in a car accident, she had to wear glasses with prisms in them because it rattled her brain. And they said that your nerves grow back like your hair does. Well, think how fast your hair doesn't grow sometimes. So think about the process with new neuro things, new paths going in our brain. It's not an overnight one-time thing. It's a constant thing. And so what do we do to change our brain? We got to put new information into it, and we have to post it everywhere so we're reminded of it constantly. She put pictures in her closet of her dreams that she had so that she would be reminded of them, not to quit. Do you guys have pictures of what you want to accomplish posted anywhere so that you can see them? Because we can put words in lists, but you know how our brain works? It works in pictures. So it's important for us to have a dream board or have a notebook that's got our dream things on there. She talked about her whole book deal, and you can read about that. She was rejected, and she finally, after she was on the puddle and crying, picked herself up and got onto Google and said, how do you self-publish? And all from that, you guys, all from that, she was able to go forward and has sold over, what'd she say, 100,000 books? Over 100,000 books of the one that got rejected over and over because it was too sweet, even though it was her story. So you guys remember that. I know in the music industry, when Katie went to a Babby Mason conference, and it was a competition, and her husband Charles gave probably some of the best advice ever. He said, when you go and you beg your way to a record label, the record label has control over you. And you can read countless stories of people who have had one-hit wonders and have been bankrupt because the record label has demands on you, and they might give you an advance, but they're going to get the money from somewhere, right? And so what Charles said is, you fight your way, find little recorders, you get out there and you do your business and you make your career until the record label comes to you and says, what can we do to get you? That's the whole difference. And that's what happened with Rachel, is finally someone came to her and was like, ooh, we love your book. Would you let us be the publisher even though you did this? And hey, could you make this a series? You guys, that's what we need to do, is to pave our way in this whole path. So few last things here. I love it when she says, you have to decide what you're going to be willing to listen to. She said another reason people give up on their dreams is because it's too difficult or taking too long. How many of us can relate with that? That's why we talk about 90 days out, right, you guys? Like, you can't expect to have instant results with 1 month of doing good. 1 month of doing good, anybody can do. But the hardest part in this business is, and I'll tell you this, is that mirror, looking at yourself in the mirror, because all of our bad habits come back in and slap us in the face. Because anybody can do anything for a month. But to become a person who's going to have a successful business, it's month after month after month. It's actually day after day after day. And so it can't be just a here and there. When they talk about you can work your business part-time or full-time, but you can't do it sometime, you guys, I'm telling you, you should be on task every day. Every day. There should be something. And some people are like, oh, I can't stop thinking about my business. Do you stop thinking about your children? No. They need food every day. They need baths. They need diapers changed. They need to be cared for. We can't stop thinking about our business because we are the owner of our business. We're the entrepreneur. Nobody else is going to open the door for us. Nobody else is going to care for it. Nobody is going to keep it upkeep in it. We have to be the one. And I have not met an entrepreneur out there that does not think of their business every day or do something with it. So that might need to be a little mind shift for some of you if you're saying, why can't I do this? Another thing that happens is, well, she said the big goals and dreams are really hard, and accomplishing them is so much harder than you think it will be. And it's okay. It is harder than you think it's going to be. I was watching Life Below Zero. Do you ever watch that Alaska show? Steps in my show. We love it. If I was in a different life, I'd probably be living in a cabin in Alaska all by myself with my husband, not alone by myself. This lady, Mary, who is a tough broad, that's the only way to explain what she is on this Life Below Zero, lives by herself and runs this gas facility out there where vehicles out there can refill. And she is like not a person I would ever want to be a friend with. But she's like this. This is her exact quote. You know what? Anyone can be successful in life if they're willing to work their ass off. And that's what she said. And I thought, you know what, you guys? That's the absolute truth. If you're willing to keep moving forward. Yesterday, I met a guy that broke my heart. He's one of the guys who's a flooring guy. He is 48 years old and he looks 65. And I said, can I get you a drink of water? He's like, I ain't had a glass of water in 8 years. I'm like, what do you drink? He says, I drink 17 Cokes a day. 17 Cokes a day. I said, are you healthy? He's like, no, I pee blood all the time. My kidneys can't handle it. I said, are you willing to change? He said, nope, I'm not willing to change. I'm going to go out with a bang. And you know what, you guys? He's given up on all his dreams. He lays floors and he drinks 17 Cokes a day and he has given up on life. He has no dream whatsoever. And you guys, are we willing to settle and pee blood like this man? Not literally, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, we got to keep fighting. We got to keep fighting from these things. Nothing that lasts in life has been a short thing. I mean, she talks about the Brooklyn Bridge, how many years that took. It took her 13 years of work to get to that place. Zig Ziglar gave 500 speeches before he was ever paid for one, and then he became the most highly sought after public speaker out there and became a very successful author. We're so worried about having our paycheck today. Are you willing to go out and do 100 presentations and not make a sale? I mean, it's going to happen if we do enough of them in our year, right? Your dream is worth fighting for, and you can't give up on it, even if trauma sets your way, you guys. How many of you have had something traumatic happen in your life? A relative dies, a divorce happens. You guys cannot let that stop you, because life is going to happen with or without tragedy. With or without tragedy. So when the voice of authority says it's taking too long, or you're too old, or you're too fat, or you're too tired, or you're too female, or a trauma comes your way, do you guys give yourself permission to quit, or do you go, I am not quitting? I am not quitting. That's the whole difference. Jeff and I were watching just a little tiny of a movie that was called Buried. Didn't have a good ending, so don't watch it. But it was a guy who was a prisoner of war. But I told Jeff, I said, isn't it amazing? This guy was buried in this little bitty box with a little light, and the tenacity and the desire to live and to fight to get out of that hole. Like, that is the desire that we have. God put that within us to be fighters and to keep moving forward. And so when you give up, you guys, that is not what we were made to be. That is not what we're made to be. Here's the thing I want to write. Even if you have a supportive family, even if you have the greatest friends alive, even if your spouse is the most uplifting, encouraging human and your number one fan, even then, they're not going to want your dream as much as you want it. You have to ask yourself, am I being kept up at night with this? Am I waking up early in the morning? Nobody out there is going to care. This is why it is our job to do hostess coaching, you guys. Nobody cares. They forget about the party. How many of you have had a party and you completely put it out of your mind until 2 days before, and then you scramble to invite? That's what people are doing, unless we are host coaching and keeping it in the forefront of their mind. We have to be the ones to decide to pursue the wildest dreams that we have, you guys. We have to decide that every single day. Every single day. And unfortunately, this is what happens. Yes, I decided I'm going to do that. And then the reality sets in, and this is what we do. I don't really feel like doing that. Oh gosh, I'd rather go watch my show. Or, oh, my friends want to go out someplace. That's what happens in reality. Or I need to do laundry, or I need to organize my house. And so we need to learn how to put things in. So here's the things that helped Rachel get her goal. Audacity. Keep your eyes on your goal regardless of what gets in your way, you guys. Be like me, where you think anything can be accomplished. Anything can be accomplished. Look for alternative paths. And this is the funnel method that we've learned, you guys. When you hear a no, it's an indication you need to offer something different. The big question that people have is, how often should I follow up? Until they tell you to stop following up. I mean, I told Sandra, so I guess that's not true. I told her, don't bother me. Keep your dreams to yourself. She didn't listen, and I'm so grateful that she didn't listen. Keeping your goals in plain sight is so important. Pin those up, because your dreams are your why, and Arbonne is the vehicle. Promotions in Arbonne are just stepping stones to help us get us farther along into the dreams that we want to accomplish. Titles are just pay levels. That's all they are. If you guys can understand that, I have people that are area managers that make way more than some regional vice presidents. So it's not about that. It just allows you to have a certain percentage of pay is what it is. So the dailies are what accumulates one thing on top of another. And those little dailies are going to pay off long term. I mean, we all look at Cecilia Stoll, 12 nations wide. How many of us, for the first 8 years of our life, would have kept doing presentations without promotion? Because that's what she did. She's like, I did 8 presentations, no matter what, all through those years. And I'm the one that stayed in when people in my business quit. But the thing is, you got to have people in your business first that you can stay in longer than them, right? So we got to get out there. You got to get out there. So keep your goals in plain sight, and just know, you guys, that you were brought to this business for a reason, and it's not about you. It's about the people that are waiting to hear about this business, that you can invest in them and change their lives. I came to a realization that part of what I do is I have had a passion because people have poured into me that I want to help other people. And you guys, look around. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs a friend. People need things to be differently in their life, right? And so we need to be out in front of other people so that we can interact with them. This is why when we lived in Rock, Michigan, and I loved my solitude out there, I read a story about in the old days in the Bible when God would do miraculous things, the people would put up these stones. And when people would come across the stones, they'd be like, what happened there? And then a parent could turn and tell the story. Well, in the New Testament, it talks about that we're to be living stones, so that when people come across our paths and they see something different, we can help them and we can point them into the right direction. You guys, I couldn't be a living stone living out in my little secluded log cabin. You cannot be a living stone sitting in the comfort of your own home. We need to be like John Maxwell and learn to be out and amongst people, to go to the events, to go where the people are, and to walk slowly through the crowd. So if you don't get out of your home to get into new concerts, into community events, go do it. Go do it. And don't be a person who is trying to be the show or be interesting to other people. Learn to walk slowly through the crowd and be interested in other people. I guarantee you, you're going to hear people's stories, and you're going to just be able to say to them, you know what, I might have something you need. I might have something you need. If not, we've at least had a fun time having coffee together. So you guys, I know this was long today, but this was a lot. This was a lot in this chapter. And I even skipped through a couple things, but I think you can go back and read them or listen to it on Audible. That's what I love doing when I'm taking a shower, redeeming every little moment instead of just letting my mind go in different places. But you guys, you were made for this. You came to it. You were attracted for it. Do not allow your past experiences or where you are or the way you do things currently to define your business. You know you need to move to the top, and the reason you need to move to the top is because that's going to be proof in the pudding that you're helping enough people. It's going to be proof in the pudding to the people that you are leading that they can do it as well. So keep fighting, be tenacious, be so grateful for every little step along the way. When it takes 13 years like Rachel to get to the spot, she's like, it took me that many years to learn how to be a public speaker. It took me that many years to learn how to read well. It took me that many years. Like, what is it that you need to work on so that you can be prepared to lead from where you're at? Because we don't ever move forward beyond what we're capable of being able to handle. So ask yourself, where do I need to grow? Where do I need to expand my territory? How do I need to increase? By being connected with how you are today is number one right here. Be connected, continue to grow, and then continue to work on your business at the same time. Don't wait till you get to the sweet spot. Work until you work into the sweet spot. So thanks, you guys. Carlita, if you watch this, have a happy anniversary together, and you guys go and make the most of today. Like, if you haven't stayed up on your 5 people a day, today is the perfect day. You can sit down all day long and you can make phone calls. Just another 24 hours. Talk to you guys later.